Good evening, everyone. Hope you're well. Hope you can all see me and see Dan, and you can hear me good. That's better, Katie. The sun is shining in where you are, which is lovely.
Makes a change.
Yeah, whereabouts are you?
Lenham.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Maidstone. Yeah, that's good. It's been a bright day for all of us, so that's excellent. So, where is everybody else dialing in from today? Vin, is it Vin? Spence?
Yeah, Vin Spence. I'm down in from London.
Oh, brilliant. And whereabouts in London do you live?
South London.
Excellent. And you invest there or somewhere else?
I'm here on behalf of my my 20-year-old son.
Excellent. And where is he?
He is at uni getting ready to pack up to come down. So I'm sitting in on for him today because he couldn't make.
Fantastic. And is he already in property? Looking for...
He's well wanted to be here. He's interested in the property field, and he's got questions for me to put forward.
Oh, brilliant. Congratulations to you for having brought him up so well. And I'm not just saying that, but somebody here 20, university, and wants to get into property, they've got a clear vision. And that doesn't just come. So congratulations. And I'm glad that you're here. And hopefully he can join us on future events. And if you need to, if I can't answer all your questions tonight or other people can't, I'm sure we can reach out to each other. So yeah, if we can do anything, let me know.
Thank you, Sunil. Appreciate that.
Welcome. No, thank you for being here. And thank you to everyone for being here. I know it's a nice sunny evening, but if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to get started on the training so that you get maximum value. We are looking to wrap up at 7:30. Sorry, yeah, 7:30. So it gives us plenty of time to go through everything that we're going to go through. So Vin has just shared an excellent story with us about her son at university wanting to get into property. And that's inspiration for many people to say, look, you know, this is what young people are doing now. And when I started, I'd also just finished Polytechnic. I wasn't as bright as your son. I went to a Polytechnic in Middlesbrough. And in the year that I finished in the July. So I finished in the May time. And in the July, I bought my first 2 properties in Middlesbrough. And then I bought a few more down in Kent. And then that just got me onto the ladder. So if you can get your first property, as I always say, the first property leads to the second property. First property gives you belief and it gives you money, and you can just continue and continue. So, you know, it just, if you can do it yourself, great. If you're already doing it, brilliant. You know, the next generation is also really important. So it's teaching them about finances, is about getting them onto the property ladder. Even now, getting onto the property ladder. Like my friend Doug here, we've gone through a number of recessions. We've gone through a number of political changes, the Labour Party, coalitions, Conservative parties, etc., etc. Throughout all of those times, let it be recession, let it be change of government, the credit crunch, in all of those years, hand on heart, I'm really happy to say we have made money. Okay, we have grown every single year, and I'll go through the presentation, and it's not about why this is such an important time. And the reason I'm sort of covering the area that I'm covering this evening is because this week I've had numerous. Thanks, Dan. This week I've had numerous people calling and reaching out or texting and saying, "What do you think of the Labour government? Are we in trouble? Is there what's going to happen as landlords? Are you selling up?" The answer is no, I'm not selling up. As I said, Doug, myself, we've been through many changes in our lifetime, and it's great because we've now can take that information, take the experience, and really invest and really move forward, and at the same time help anybody else that is looking to grow. So I'm a buy and hold investor, so I don't sell properties, and these are some of the properties that I own. Some I have in I have a portfolio in Sittingbourne in Kent, some in around Reading, London, and Stoke-on-Trent. So it's split between Stoke-on-Trent, which has given me good yields, and here capital growth, and we've still got the portfolio in in Stoke-on-Trent, and we manage it all from this office here. This is quite a big office in Sittingbourne. We manage it all centrally, so we don't need offices up there. We can manage it all from one central place. So from buy-to-lets, which is our main business or main income, I went into commercial conversions. This is one of them in Dover, which is 9 apartments converted, and I've done a number of commercial conversions. One in Faversham, which was 8, which was a mixed project, which was some of it was 4 was conversion and 4 new builds. Others where I've got offices that I've converted into flats, into 6 flats, pubs. Again, we've got planning today actually for 28 apartments and a commercial unit. It's taken us 4 years to get to this stage, and it feels fantastic to have that planning permission in, so that we can either get started or sell the project. Thank you for turning your camera around, Kerry. It really does help me because it, it was a bit difficult. So well done. So I'll just move on. So all of those units, so we have lots of rental properties, and that's our main business. We have our assets, we rent the properties out, and we have a team of 10 people in the office here, and we've got property managers, lettings people, business manager, lettings manager. So we've got a big team internally in the office, and then we've got maintenance guys as well. So we manage our own properties here, and we manage for other landlords and investors, etc., etc. What makes us different from other high street estate agents, and please, I'm not an estate agent, I know where my hat is, I'm an investor. Although the government also want me to do another job, which I have to do, which is border control. So anybody that comes in here looking for a property to rent or to buy, I have to make sure I get their ID and passport and make sure that they are eligible to rent a property in the UK. So I'm part of border control as well. And if you haven't got the information and you didn't go on the training, you are as well. And if you don't do it, the government's able to fine you. I don't get paid for that. You don't get paid for that. We just have to do it as part of the love for the country. So yeah, we manage all properties from a central location. As I say, we have an estate agency. We have people in the estate agency who are experienced, but my main focus is I'm an investor. What makes us different is that we can understand the landlords or the investors' requirements, how we deal with problems. They're very different from a normal estate agent. So we do get different clientele coming in because they're looking for something more specific, complicated areas, etc. So if you get any questions or anything, please put them in the chat or raise your hand. So if I can see you, then I can certainly take questions as we go. But would you agree? And if you agree, could you put a 1 in the chat and a 0 in the chat if you don't agree, that change brings opportunity or opportunities? Do you think change brings opportunities? If it is, then please give us a 1. Thank you for those who are putting a 1 in the chat. And if you don't think change brings opportunity, that's also okay. So I'm glad that some of you agree with me. I think change brings opportunities. And I also believe that change brings opportunities. And I also think that change brings opportunities. I think this is a great time because we're in a time of change. I don't know if you agree or not, but we are in a time of change, and that brings opportunities. Yeah. So we're in a time of change, and the world continues to change. And Craig, thank you. Change is consistent or constant. We're all getting older, day by one. Yeah, we are. We're getting older, but there's lots and lots of opportunities. So people will see that there'll be 2 types of people at the moment. There'll be fearful people who are thinking, oh, the government's going to bring in a lot of changes, and that is not good for me as a landlord. There'll be others thinking, change is what I am looking for because change brings that opportunity for growth. And as I indicated right at the beginning, I'll see Doug on the screen here, and he's, as I say, he's been in this business many years, but big portfolio, and he's not just a big portfolio, he's traveled a lot as well. And when I've spoken to him, we talk about the the recessions and, government changes and all of those things will continuously give us opportunities. What's our job, do you think? Either put it in the chat. What do you think your job is at the moment? Or unmic and say what you feel. What is your job at the moment? Anything from anybody in the chat? Can't see the chat, but there we go. So, yeah, educate people. I mean, thank you.
Hello, Sarah. Am I butting in with anybody?
Yeah, please, go for it.
My job at the moment is managing tenants, and the worst part of that job right now is rent arrears. I've never known rent arrears to be so bad as they are, or they have been in the last year or two. Over the last 34 years, having rented property and enjoyed most of that time, I'm now experiencing a lot of arrears, a lot of financial difficulty, people losing jobs, partnerships breaking up, which is affecting rent roll. So I think one of the big problems right now is trying to keep people to, keep paying their rent, not falling into arrears. Yeah,
brilliant. Anybody agree with that? Are rent arrears more common in single tenancy properties or HMOs? There's good and bad in both, but I would say more in HMO situations, Katie, because you get more transient people. Families generally will pay the rent first. Even during COVID, they paid their rent because they want to protect the roof over the home of their families or their children and things like that. Where in a HMO situation, if they don't pay the rent, they'll go back to mum and dad's or somewhere else. So it's very easy for them to go, well, yeah, I'm not paying the rent. And that's my view, that logically, yeah, that would be the case, that they'd go back to mum and dad. I know during COVID and the tenants paid their rents, and even now, because they just want to protect their families. So what's our job? Thank you, Doug, for coming in there. Craig is also put in there helping solve people's property problems. Education, I mean, it's put absolutely. So all of those things are important. I think for me, it's reviewing and fully understand the changes and how they can impact you, your current and your future business. So review and understand the changes and how they impact you, your current situation and your future business. So Katie's just asked a question about the rent arrears on HMOs and single lets. So she's thinking about how she could reduce her rent arrears, impact what the government could bring in. So reviewing her current business now in line with future changes. Look for and identify best opportunities that suit you. There will be opportunities. There's going to be lots and lots of opportunities, and I'll cover some of those in a second. But you need to be looking. You need to have that vision and thinking, well, it's a good time at the moment. So we're going to look for opportunities, but the ones that suit me or the ones that suit you. So if they don't suit you, then it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. It's more important that you get what you need at this time from this situation. And I'm saying this situation, as Greg has said, it's going to be consistent, constant change. So we're always looking. A new government. So the first thing is I know the government's only been in a short time, but the new government have currently not made any changes. But when you look at social media and you look at some of the posts and some of the newspapers and everything else, there's a lot of scaremongering going on. Section 21 is going to be doing this. Section 21 is a very, very good tool for landlords because you do not have to give a reason at the moment, because you as a landlord and I as a landlord, we should have a right to say, I've saved my money, I've got a mortgage, I've purchased a property and I want to let this property, the van, I'm going to rent you my property. And is it okay? Is that when the tenancy ends, if I want it back, that you'll give it back to me. And if you want to leave then you give me notice and I give you notice. That's fair, isn't it? Yeah, according to the government, they're going to withdraw that power. So if the tenant's not done anything wrong, then the government will say, you can't evict that tenant. A landlord, as I've indicated, has a mortgage. They do not want void periods. They do not want to redo the property. They do not want to do certain things. They don't want void periods. They actually want the tenants to stay long term. So our tenants stay, 8 to 10 years on average, because we're targeting families. And if we get that tenancy right, when the kids are at 10, 11, they're not going to leave that property until the kids have gone to university, got to 18 years old. So we've got a good chance of time is that they'll stay in the property, because what they want is certainty for the family, for the kids. So if that model works for us, I'm not saying it works for everybody, but it's worked for me for many years. But of course, the market is changing. So that model works for me, and with as in families of businesses called family homes, and that's where that comes from. But there's been no changes made yet, so we continue as we are. So if you need to serve a Section 21, which is part of the Housing Act, to say that you can evict the tenant or you want your property back for whatever reason, and this is an excellent time to review your portfolio. So if you have tenants that are not paying rent, not doing as they should be under the tenancy agreement, this is the time to take action, and which means reviewing, serving correct notices, making sure the paperwork's in place before serving notices, because you don't want to be tied into an agreement with the tenant if the law changes within the next year. So if the law changes and then you cannot get the property back and you've got a bad tenant, so this is the time to review that situation now, because we know that the time it will come, these changes will be made, but it's going to take time. So government is proposing changes which will be coming to law before. So let me just start again. The government are proposing changes which need to become law before any proposed changes can be implemented. So it has to go through Parliament, it has to go through certain stages, and everything has to take time. But that's the opportunity window that we have to say, okay, let's review our tenant base and to see if that is what we are looking for. Now, I'm not part of the Labour Party. I know I've got a red tie on today. I'm not part of the Labour Party. I've supported my local Conservative MP for the last 8-9 years. They've done great stuff for us as well, helping us with planning applications. And we go to a committee and we know who our friendly people are and those that are against us as well. So I'm not part of the Labour Party, but this is what they're saying. They're saying that they will build 1.5 million new homes in the next 5 years. Just to put that into perspective, last year 35,000 homes were built, so that's a big number to be hitting over the next 5 years. These are the other pledges. Immediately update the National Planning Policy Framework, which is great if they can do it. So planning applications, as I said before, ours took 4 years, and that's not unusual. So the policies that are within the framework, it says this is the law, the planning law, this is the criteria. So in this particular area, we're in a flood risk area. So we have to make sure that whenever we make a planning application, we put a flood risk assessment in, and they're saying that they want to speed up the planning process. Absolutely brilliant. That is an opportunity for each and every one of us, because if you're into planning or if you're looking at projects and you think there's planning opportunities there, then brilliant, because if that gets updated, that'll be really, really good for landlords, property investors, etc. Every council has a local plan which says we're going to build X number of houses. They identify sites that they will build on or they will give permission on. So what they do is they reach out to investors and they say, can you come forward with any sites that you would like us to propose? And they put that in their plan. So we put in 3 or 4 sites and we said, these are the sites that we would like to get planning on in the future. So that's in the local plan. So when we go for planning permission, we say that is in your local plan and in your numbers. So it gives the benefit of trying to get permission going forward. Number 4, it may affect people here, but it may not. But this again is a really good one for us, increasing the rate of stamp duty charge, surcharge paid by non-UK residents. This is more related to London, where you've got foreign investment coming in, and they will invest large sums of money, and the government don't make any more money. So what the government are doing is saying, well, if people are coming in, we're going to charge them more stamp duty. There's of course more money in the bank, and if there's more money in the bank and they're getting it from foreign nationals, then maybe they will leave us alone who are working locally and supporting our local communities. So I think that's a really good one if they can implement it, especially the larger properties in London. They know that they can make a good amount of stamp duty coming in. The government will not be afraid to make full use of the intervention powers. So the government already have the law and already have the powers to take over the running of a local council if that council is not performing. So that means that if they're not meeting their budgets or their planning, but it's more to do with if they're going into liquidation, the government, the central government can take over. As investors and as landlords, that can be really, really good from a planning point of view, because again, you're dealing with somebody that's not local. They just look at the policy, and if that policy works, then you'll get planning. So the government can make use of statutory powers to intervene when the councils are deemed to be failing. So that's the key thing. So if your council is failing, London councils have failed. I think Liverpool was on the brinks, and there's others as well, but that could lead to opportunities. Number 6, prioritizing developments, previously used land and fast tracking approval urban brownfield sites. So brownfield sites where something has already been there, like ours was a pub and it was already used, so they're not looking, they're committed to preserving the green belts, which is great. They're saying let's use the sites that are already had buildings on them and give the local councils more power to use them more quicker and to get planning on those quicker rather than the green belts, which makes sense. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but that's what their policy delivered. The biggest increase in social and affordable housing in a generation. That is quite broad for them. There's nothing that says there's no detail on this, but again, they want to deliver social housing and affordable. But I don't know if that means that landlords will have to do affordable accommodation or more housing, or they'll put rent caps in and things like that. So again, it's a good time to review rents, because we're going through our whole portfolio and reviewing rents, because we think that if the rent caps come in, let's get in beforehand. And again, that could take time, but they are making some big promises that they may have to, I don't know if they're going to fulfill. Local authority to give first-time buyers the chance to buy first time. So first-time buyers to buy homes. This is good for the market, because if the first-time buyers are coming in, it will fuel the next purchase for the next person. So one person selling becomes somebody else's income, and again, they're trying to generate more, which will mean that house prices will again increase. But I'll come back to Van, and I'm sorry I'm not picking on you, but referring to you again. But your son maybe focused on this area and saying, okay, how can I get a mortgage? Because I'm a first-time buyer, if he is, or there's first-time buyers. And the next one is that they're encouraging deposit schemes and lower mortgage costs. So that could be that they have special treatment as first-time buyers. I think, well, we're already investors. Most of us already got properties. It's not good for us. No, it may not be good for us. It's good for family, friends, etc., who are not on the property market. But again, if that property market at the bottom end, if the property market at the bottom end is really being fueled, it will generate sales further up, which is great.
Or you can do for another 2 weeks.
What does this mean for landlords? So the other part of the policies that they're looking at was around the housing policies, and then they're looking at tenant protection. So tenant protection has gone up in the last 10-15 years, more and more. Introduction of deposit protection, 2019 tenant fee ban, so agents or landlords cannot charge tenant fees. And deposit protection came in 2007, So deposits have to be registered and protected. Again, this is all to help the tenant. Do you think this is an opportunity or not? If it's an opportunity, please put a 1 in the chat. So why would tenant protection give us more opportunities? It's going to result in more rules and more work for landlords. Would you agree? So more work, more rules, more penalties if we get it wrong. More opportunities. You're saying, well, why is there more opportunities? Because we're going to be working harder. Some landlords will exit the market, okay? And we've seen this before. Some landlords will leave the market, and it's more to do with maybe their state in their life, their age. As Craig indicated earlier, we're getting older every day. So, you know, people get to a certain point in life. And we had a landlord in here the other day, and he said he's 73 years old. He's got a single property. And so I said to him, don't worry, you know, we'll manage everything. You can do what you want and relax and everything else. He said, I just want out of the market. So for him, it's not the changes that are happening. The time is right for him to exit the market, but we will get more landlords exiting the market, which means there's more opportunities for us as investors. So it's looking out for those opportunities. The government are also talking about new energy efficiency targets. They have been talking about these for many years, both the governments, Conservative and the Labour Party. So what do you think the opportunity is here? Could you put that in the chat? Do you think there's an opportunity here? Yeah, there is an opportunity. What's the opportunity? It will result, yeah, and he's right. You know, more competition, people leave below market value, great. More rules, more regulation, more work for landlords. So more opportunities, because again, some landlords will exit the market because it may be the right time for their life, or they're saying, I'm going to go and try another investment, I'm going to go somewhere else, I'm going to do something other than what I'm doing now. But again, this creates opportunities in your local area to go and find those properties or build up initially relationships with landlords. And so if they wish to sell, they'll come to you and say, yeah, you know, before I put this on the market, let me talk to you. I want to sell my property because I'm exiting. The landlord that came to see me yesterday or a few days ago, he's saying he's been with his tenant's been in there 14 years. He's not increased the rent, been a fantastic landlord. He wants out now, and he wants to sell the property with the tenants in there because he feels that that's the right thing to do. So the fact that he hasn't increased the rent for such a long time, 14 years, means he's below market rent. And of course, that affects the value of his property, because if an investor's coming in to buy it with a tenant, the loan to value, not the loan to value, the rent cover is not sufficient for the money that's actual the rent. So if the market value is 230, that property will probably sell at 150, 140 because the rent cover is not there. So that is an opportunity for somebody to say, well, yeah, I'll keep your tenant. I can only give you X for the property because the rent cover doesn't cover the rental. Sorry, it doesn't cover the value of the mortgage. So that going back, there are more opportunities. When governments introduce these, normally there was a Green Deal and things like that. When governments introduce energy efficient targets, they also introduce government grants. So the key is to look out for government grants. So either on social media or trainings like this, other things that you may get. If I get any grants coming through, I'll certainly let people know. That reminds me that something I should have done before, but it's good that there's more people here now, is that these key boxes, I'm not selling them on Amazon, but I did buy 20 yesterday because the key boxes are normally 15, 16 pounds. They're £8 on Amazon today. So if you've got HMOs, if you haven't got HMOs, we're actually putting them on single let properties as well, because it just saves us a lot of time. So we'll hide the box around somewhere so that if our contractor needs to go. Certainly when a property becomes empty, it saves them coming to the office, so we'll leave the key for the contractor at the property. So we brought 20 to go and install at key locations. But yeah, they're as I say, I'm not selling them, I'm not commission. I just thought it'd be good to let you know. So that's me covered my thoughts at the moment. I hope you can sort of, for me to summarize, there is a lot of change going to be happening, which is good. There'll be lots of opportunities. It's being open to those opportunities. It's also building up relationships with people, getting out to networking meetings. So if landlords do want to sell, you'll be the first person that they go to. So before we go to questions, who's heard the saying, it's not what you know, but who you know, by raise of hands? Yeah, so it's not what you know, it's who you know. For me, that goes one step further. It's not what you know, it's not who you know, but it's in fact who knows you. So if the people know you, then they will say, you know, I've got this property and I know Doug, Craig, Paul, Katie, they're the people in my area that are going to be buying properties. They're the people who can solve property problems. So if you've got a toothache, where do you go? The dentist. Yeah. So if somebody's got a problem with their property, and it's not often the property, it is a dream or a circumstances that's caused it by either death, divorce, debt, or various other things that have caused a situation. They have a problem, and just like with a toothache, they have a pain. They need to go to the right person. So what normally happens is they go to an estate agent and they say, I need to sell my property. So the estate agent says, of course, we'll come around, we'll take a commission, we'll put it on the market, we'll do X, Y, and Z. What you're looking for, and this is where your opportunity is that you become the go-to person when somebody's got a property problem and they say, I've come to you because I've got this pain and I've got this, and with your experience and education, you can help them in a much better way. And if you, and I spoke to Doug actually about 3, 4 weeks ago, and I phoned him up and I said, I've just been out to this lady's house, and the husband was pressurizing this lady. He's an ex-husband, left the property, pressurizing this lady to sell the property so he could have his money so he can go and marry somebody else. There was a disabled son in the property and a disabled daughter, and they were adults, they weren't children. And Doug said, well, sometimes we can't help people because we couldn't help them in that situation, but we gave them good advice. So we said to them, and as an estate agent, I went out there and I said, look, you're asking me to value your property to put it on the market. I would say to you, don't put it on the market, stay put, because no court in the land, this is what Doug said, no court in the land will serve a court order for you to be evicted just so that your husband can have half of the money. So sit tight, here's my number. If you get any problems, give me a call. The reason for that is because it's the right thing to do for that lady and her family. Yeah, she should be in that is her home. Somebody else, there was domestic violence involved previously, is intimidating and saying you have to sell the property. But if she'd gone to another estate agent, and I'm not knocking my competition, but I'll tell you, they're in it for commission. Yes, madam, this is the value of your property. We'll be around next week. We've got 10 people interested in this location, in this property. We'll get it sold. And good, they would have sold it, but it's not right. So we gave her some advice. As I said, I phoned Doug, had a conversation, gave her some advice and said, stay put. If you get any letters from him, you know where I am, we'll write back to him. We'll get solicitors to write to him, etc., etc. So that if you do something like that, and I'm not saying look at me, that's the right thing to do for me, but you become known as the person to go to. When that lady wants to sell that property, she will come, but it's got to be right for her at the right time for her family, not because she's under pressure. So I hope that story sort of came across in the right way. It's not about, it is about value. It's about value for that person, but we will always find a property. We will always find an opportunity. We will always find a deal, but it's got to be a win-win. And if it's not, then it won't work long term. It will work short term. You'll get a few deals, no problem, but long term it won't. So you've got to be thinking long term. So I've done a lot of talking. So are there any questions on that last bit or anything that I spoke about in terms of the government? There's a lot of information. There's a lot of stuff coming out about the tenant part, which I'll cover in another training, which is about the tenants and what powers they're going to have, or what powers that the government want to introduce and take away Section 21 and introduce new powers. But yes, I'll cover that later. So any questions or general questions, happy to take. And as I say, we've got other people here that are happy also to contribute. We've got Amit's mortgage broker. We've got people with lots of experience as well. So yeah, please feel free to unmute and ask questions.
Yes, may I ask? I have 3 questions. I don't know if I'll be able to ask all 3.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, as I said, I'm speaking on behalf of my son who's 20, and one of the 3 questions is, what is the best property investment strategy for a 20-year-old looking to begin his entrepreneurial journey, e.g. deal sourcing, rent to rent, or BRRR? I'm assuming you'd be aware of that, but that's one of his questions, one of the 3.
Yeah. Anybody else want to take that?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, in my experience, the property business is not really about property. It's more about people. It's like most businesses really isn't really about the product that you're selling. It's really about the people that you're selling to, because people tend to buy from people that they know, like, and trust. So my philosophy in acquiring property is not to look for property, but to look for people. Look for people, like Sana was just alluded to. Look for people who need some form of expert help and advice. A lot of people don't know where to go to for advice, who to help, who to ask for help. So once you've educated yourself with some basic knowledge around property, how to raise finance, how to acquire enough finance to purchase a property in various different forms, how to acquire a property in a creative way, it's then a case of finding people who need our help. Because quite often, like the lady that came to Sunil and needed help because her husband was putting her under pressure to sell the house so that he could have half the equity to buy a new house for him and his new girlfriend. Well, that lady needed some help, but she didn't necessarily need to sell the house. So it's with a little bit of knowledge that you can provide some expert advice. And quite often, the motivation that people have where they need our help it boils down to financial reasons. Financial reasons are brought about by splitting up of partnerships, loss of job, having to relocate. There's a whole raft of reasons why people are motivated to seek advice from the so-called property expert. So I see it as our job to look for those people who are motivated by some form of stress, some form of discomfort around owning a property, which is normally brought about by some financial reason. And then by giving some sensible advice as to how they can alleviate their problem, and quite often that might mean that we simply buy the property from them. And there's various different ways in which we can buy the property from them, using either a mortgage or cash, or borrowing money from a third party, or arranging some form of contract like an assisted sale agreement, whereby we may provide them with some money now and some money later. Various different ways of structuring a purchase. So I think the first thing is to put the word out there that you're the person to go to that can provide help and advice to these motivated sellers. And then look for motivated sellers, not necessarily directly yourself, but let everybody know that you know that what you do, that this is your area of expertise. And if they know anybody or hear of anybody in difficulty, you're the one that they should be speaking to because you have the answers. And if you don't know the answers, you know where to find them through people like Sunil and myself and various other people on the call this evening. So I would say most property investors, particularly new people to the business, are taught by other so-called property gurus to go and look for a building project so that you can spend your money paying your builder to upgrade the property to add some value. But there's missing a point really, is that it's not really all about building and becoming a builder and improving the value of a property by adding bedrooms or doing extensions. I think it's more about looking for people who are in need of our help, providing the help to provide a win-win situation. And then that creates an opportunity for us quite often to buy the property, quite often under market value, or in a creative way where we can pay some money now and some money later on, whereby we can raise a mortgage to pay the money now, and then we pay the balance of the monies later on, using just the vendor's money and the bank's money and none of our own. I hope that helps.
That does. Thank you very much, Douglas. Thank you so much.
Sorry, just before we carry on, that is fantastic value, because I built my portfolio. We live locally, by the way. We live 2-3 miles away from each other. I built my portfolio the traditional way, which was at that time 15% deposit, and then get a mortgage, next 15% deposit, etc., and then it went up to 25%, and that's how I built. What Doug has done is been very creative throughout 30 years, and found people who need to sell, motivated sellers, and we hear this all the time. But his ethics is, we're going to go and help these people. If we can't help them, we leave them in a better place with some advice, and that's the key. The question around for your son, what's his name, by the way?
Jamani.
So for him, I would say, and again, what Doug said is, that he becomes the person that people know, the go-to, the motivate, if they've got a problem. He's in an ideal situation because he's probably very good with social media and things like that. So it's building a personal brand. So I think, first of all, you can build a personal brand, and then all the other strategies come from there. So yes, he needs to be clear on what his personal brand is. As is he a deal sourcer? Yes, he might be, but he can have a company as a deal sourcer. He can also be have one of his own properties. He can do this, etc. The ultimate aim always is to own and control the assets, because capital growth, you control it, you do what you need to do. Assets are the key to wealth, not the tenant. And of course, we need the tenant to pay the rent. So, but I would say to him, be very clear, get some help on building a personal brand. And at his age, it's much easier than it is for many of us right here.
Thank you so much. So I'm allowed to do the next two very quickly?
Yeah, unless anybody else wants to jump in and we can come back, or you okay? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. What would you recommend taking out a loan? Would you recommend taking out a loan in order to fund the process, e.g. rent to rent? And if so, what's the best way to go about getting a loan?
Amit, did you want to come in? Loans and your theories, or Doug, did you want to, anybody else? Loans?
Hello. The thing is, when you're doing a rent to rent, you're responsible for the property owner's mortgage, and quite often you're responsible for the utility bills, etc. So it's taken on a lot of responsibility. if you borrowed the money on a personal loan, you're paying quite high interest over I would say if that's a strategy that you're looking to do, not that I'd recommend it, but if it's a strategy that you would look to do, I would suggest taking in an angel investor as a private individual that may have some cash in the bank that's looking for a better return than 1 or 2% that the bank's paying. Maybe pay them 5 or 6%, 7, 8%, which you could do from the rental income. So align yourself with an angel investor or a private investor that has a bit of cash in the bank, maybe a family member who, you know, maybe an older family member that's living on a limited income, maybe a pension income, that would welcome a better return on their on the money that they have saved, rather than just 1 or 2% from the banks. But Sunil touched on a point there. Is the point is that property ownership is all about owning equity. Really, that's the golden nugget, is that you own equity, because over a period of time adds value. And I found over the last sort of 30 odd years that a lot of the properties that I purchased many years ago, which I'm now selling, I'm selling everything. But when I do sell, what I cash out is 100, 102, 150,000, 200,000, 250,000, large sums of money that I'm cashing out. And that gives me the ability to do what I want to do, which is to follow my lifestyle, which is to travel first class and visit some of the world's most exotic locations. That's why we get into the property business in the first place. But it takes a long time. You can't do it overnight. So it's all about owning equity. But if you look at helping people and acquiring property, you don't necessarily need to find money as a deposit. You can use the vendor's money as the deposit and the bank's money, or providing a discount. If you get a 30% discount on a property and you borrow 75% of the value of the property, that means that you're actually funding the property 100% from the bank. Not that the bank would know that. They needs to close his ears here. So yeah, there's a strategy that you can use whereby you're using the vendor's money and the bank's money, but none of your own money. So that means that you can acquire equity where you don't necessarily have the deposit yourself. And that's just a case of learning a few new strategies. Okay, leave you to your next question.
Thank you, Douglas. I think that brings it into the final question, if that's okay. It leads on to it. He's saying is, what would be the best property investment strategy for someone with low amount of capital? Being obviously he's 20 and he's thinking foundation.
Hey, did you want to come in?
Hear me now?
Yes, great. Good to see you.
How is everyone?
Good, you?
Not too bad. One thing I would say is, kind of going back to that previous question, we're trying to get a bank loan. The banks will probably not let you have it if you say, oh yeah, you're trying to get into property with it. So like, oh, it's very risky. It's very risky. If you said you was getting a car with it, they'd throw money at you. With regarding what strategy to go with, I'd probably look at a joint venture with someone who's possibly the similar age, or someone who's possibly got a bit more experience with them. Let's say, I don't know, say your son's got £20,000 to play with, let's say if he went with then someone else who's got a different skill set. I'll just use me as an example. I'm a builder. So for someone in the group who hasn't necessarily got building knowledge, but then have got other skill sets that I don't have, I don't know, for example, then it might be worth teaming up with someone and seeing what you can both then come up with.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Toby.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, no, it's really good advice.
Sunil, am I still unmuted?
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to add about that question again. Which strategy should a young 20-year-old use? I had the pleasure in mentoring 5 young school kids some years ago up at my offices in Gravesend. One of their parents asked me if I would mentor them in becoming property investors and entrepreneurs. So we had a 6-week course once a week, and one of those guys was by the name of Denzel Jones, who is quite famous on Instagram and social media channels. Denzel, when I mentored him, he was I think he was 16. And by the time he was 18 or 17 or 18, he acquired his first property on a rent-to-rent using his uncle's cash to finance the deal. By the time he was 18, he'd acquired 2 properties. And his strategy now is that he's using property sourcing as a strategy. He does the odd rent to rent, but he's sourcing properties to high net worth individuals. That is, professional football players, people from the Middle East, very high net worth individuals. And he moves in very high circles in order to find those individuals that are looking to acquire properties, probably a minimum of 2 million up to maybe 10, 15, 20 million. So what he does is he negotiates a discount, not too difficult to get £500,000 off of a £5.5 million property. And then he charges a fee for finding the deal to his buyers who don't have the time to find the deals. So Denzel's currently doing 10,000 a month in commission, just property sourcing. So, he's not buying, he doesn't own equity, but he's doing 10 grand a month property sourcing. And he did that from, age 17, and he's now, I think he's 21. Wow. So there you go. That's something your son could do.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, excellent. So I think what the question is, well, how can you get a loan to sort of move forward? And I think when we start, we don't have money, or we don't have the knowledge or the experience, etc. We say, I need money, I get a loan. I need money, I get a loan. And I think the thought process just needs to change a little bit. And I went to see a broker near where Kerry is in Maidstone, or Katie, I think, was in Maidstone, and it was quite a way out of Maidstone. So this particular chap was a land broker, and he sells lands and developments, etc. And £1 million deals. It was really, really hard. But he had this very small office, and what I noticed, he had 2 whiteboards, and in one corner of the whiteboard had all the projects that he was trying to sell, and in the other corner he had the investors that he was trying to sell to. And it's the same principle of saying, so that we as property investors always, even after 30 years, we're looking for 2 things. Number one is who we can help with the deal, or how we can get a good deal. And number 2 is finance and the money. We're always looking for money, because that's just how it works, where you're either remortgaging, you can, like you said, a loan, private investors. Even if you have private investors, and we have a private investor has lent us 200,000, 18 months. He's now emailed us and said, "Oh, please can I have my money back, because I want to move on to another project." So he wants his money back. So again, we're looking for funds to go, okay, how can we replace that investor? So I think on a broader sense, if I was 20, and the skills that I'd be looking to learn is, how can I help people in the property business, or how can I help people with all their property needs, which I think Craig touched on as well. And how can I get good at acquiring money? So when I started, there were no buy-to-lets. So I went to the first bank, let's call it Lloyd's, and they said, no, you can't have a mortgage. Went to the next one, can't have a mortgage. I didn't stop. I kept on going to different banks until a bank said yes. Now, it wasn't that my circumstances changing. I got good at asking, and I got good at answering the questionnaire. Like Toby was saying, if you say you're going to get a loan and you want to buy a property, it doesn't sit well with their criteria. But if you want to put a kitchen in or buy a car, that's okay. The car's going to go down in value, the property's going to go up in value. But how does that work? So the skill is getting good at acquiring money, either from the vendor, the owner of the property, friends and family. And this comes back to building that brand, because if he builds a brand, builds the trust, people want to give him money. And this morning on Clubhouse, there was a gentleman from the Northeast. He's really, really good. And he was talking about how he's built his brand in his local community, and how people are happy to give him money because people know him, that the money's safe in the particular area. And if you're working locally in a community, that's where it's really good. So I think it's a broader question, not just a loan. How does he get good at finding and securing money? And secondly, how can he help people to have enough deals coming through? And as Zig Ziglar said before, that if you help enough people to get what they want, you automatically get what you want. So I hope that answers the question. Are there any other questions?
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Toby and Douglas. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you for your questions, by the way, because it adds value when people come with questions. So it does make it easier for all of us. So thank you. And just to let you know, then, you don't need to write everything down, because Dan, who helps me here, puts this event together, and he's going to put this onto YouTube in the next week or so. So we'll send you the link so that you can send it on, and hopefully go back. If it's of value to you, then all well and good. If it's not, but yeah. Any other questions that people have? Are people worried about the changes with the government? What are your thoughts? Or get that. Sorry, Toby, far away.
What's everyone's thoughts and worries going to be with HMOs? Because I've been having a chat with my dad recently, who was also talking to a landlord, and already, obviously nothing's set in stone with what the government are planning on doing, but already he's put his houses on the market because he's that worried what could happen. Do you think it would affect HMO investors at all?
I think it'll affect. I think my view is that you'll get that person now, because it could be that another driver or their circumstances in life, maybe they just get fed up with all the paperwork, and maybe they just get fed up with all the regulations. Because I know it takes me a lot longer to go get a mortgage from beginning to end and through the system than it has ever done. So there will be opportunities. That situation just proves the first comments that I was making, is that that person is now thinking there are going to be changes. It's time for me to exit. Well, that's an opportunity for somebody here. There's an opportunity for other people looking to enter the market. So you'll always get people entering, and you'll always get people exiting, and it's entering at the right time. I mean, Doug's saying he's been in business for 30 years, and it's right for him to exit now. It may not be because of the changes, but because he's already had that plan, because he wants to go and travel the world and bear the fruits of all his labour over the years. So it's not just HMO, it works. I think in every strategy, people will be exiting and people will be entering. You look confused, maybe. Does that really answer your question?
Yeah, no, I was looking at just some of the messages that were in the chat at the same time. Apologies. Yeah, because a friend of mine's just going through the process of should be getting the keys on Friday. So if anyone follows us on Instagram or whatever, or any of my socials, you'll see the full project from start to finish. And obviously, with everything that's been changing over the last week or two, I'm thinking, has he made the right decision? Is it going to be the outcome of it? Is it going to be good? Is it not? And I'm looking into buying 2 doors up from where the one that he's just getting the keys for, and I'm thinking, am I making the right decision at the same time? or me and my dad going to be making the right decision at the right time. So I'm sitting. I want to sit back and just see how my mate's one goes and how things change.
With me today, by staying till the end, you will all get this.
Not sure what happened there.
That's okay. Somebody was listening to somebody else, and it was quite interesting. You know, if you stay till the end, you'll get a bonus, etc.
That's nice.
Yeah, I would say.
Can I jump in there quickly? And
Yeah.
HMOs. I'm not in the HMO market really. Too much work involved for me. But I think that HMOs are a great strategy because the level of rents that we're having to ask now because of the additional costs of being landlords, the additional compliance issues that are only going to get more and they're only going to cost more, which we pass on to the tenants. I think there's a lot of tenants out there that just cannot afford to rent a property. So they're forced to go into shared accommodation like HMOs. So I think HMOs are a great service to provide general public where they're unable to afford their own accommodation. My brother's a good example. You know, I rent a flat to my brother, but he can't afford the rent. What he should be doing is he should be living in a HMO with a shared accommodation, sharing the kitchen, sharing the bathroom. But of course, I can't force him out to do that. So I'm lucky enough to be able to subsidise his rent. But you know, people in his position have no choice. They have to go to shared accommodation. Otherwise, they'll be homeless on the streets, and a bigger problem for the government to sort out. So I think HMOs are a very necessary. I was going to say necessary evil, really, but they're not really evil. I think they're a good service.
Yeah, it's brilliant. There's an opportunity in every single town. Somebody's working every strategy that there is out there. So if it's serviced accommodation, if it's HMO, if it's single lets, what commercial conversions, etc., etc. And I think Katie indicated that if you don't like the residential market, move into the commercial market, which is fantastic advice because there's a lot of opportunity in the commercial market, especially with all the changes that are proposed in the residential market. So yeah, move into that. HMO, I think Kerry had said, and thank you, Toby, for reminding me there's a chat and I should really check it. I want a small HMO in Sittingbourne. Do you think this is a good area? Yeah, I think it's an excellent area. I've been investing in Sittingbourne for the last 30 years. I think there's still a lot of opportunity. I think, you know, there's a big industrial estate. There's lots of developments going on. There's lots and lots of things happening. So I don't stop anybody thinking, well, come into this town because it's going to be competition. It's actually not competition because if I know people, we actually work together rather than against each other. So, you know, Kerry, forget anything, I'll send it your way. But if you want to come down and have a look around the town, there's lots and lots of opportunity. John Parker's here. He's a valuer, surveyor. He's been around some of our developments, properties, and things like that. He's done loads of surveys for us, and he's so yeah. If you need his help in terms of valuations, then let me know. But every area, as I said, there is opportunities in every single strategy. So don't feel that, you know, that won't work there or it won't work in your local area. It will work. You've just got to find the right deal for you and work it and stick with it. And it just takes time. That's the key. And that's what people, and hard work. And a lot of the trainers don't tell you that it takes hard work, but there is a lot of hard work involved in making sure that these things happen. I think there's a question about why shouldn't an agent pay fees if it's a £5 million house? I think it was Doug's point was to get it at discount, not the fees. Doug buys at discount prices every time. So he's saying that it's easier to get a discount on a bigger value property than it is on a smaller value property. Reform, we're going to abolish Section 24. Do you think other parties may take this up now that Labour have well, reform, their policies were actually, they took policies from everybody that thought that they didn't like, and they were just trying to get loads of votes get in. I don't think other parties, Labour Party have not said anything about Section 24 of the Finance Act, which prevents us from claiming interest on capital. There's so much money going into the government, I don't think it's going to change, because Labour have already laid out their party that they're going to give more protection to the tenant, and they're going to try and get the planning system sorted out. So I don't think Section 24 will be abolished. They'll leave it in there because they don't see landlords should have all this money, so they want that coppers in their bank. That's my view anyway. John, can you give Toby a ring tomorrow? I can share your number with Toby if you want me to, so that's okay. Any final questions for anybody? And if I've missed anything on the chat, I do apologise.
I was just looking at, I'm putting my pension into a SAS because it just about hits that parameter I need to do. But I was looking at what I should possibly consider as a first SAS investment for it. Any thoughts on that at all?
Not an expert in actual. I need to learn a lot
I'm
more.
not either.
I think it's a great idea.
Katie, are you going to SAS or SIP?
I'm going SAS route.
You're director of a limited company, are you?
Yes, I can't see who I'm talking to at the moment. Who's?
No.
Doug Ponsford.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was looking for which screen was flagged up. Okay, yes, yeah, I've got enough money to be able to put it into a SAS. So yes, it is under a limited company.
All right, so you're going to borrow some money back on a loan.
Yes.
And put that into a property.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the restrictions of the SIP, so that's why I was thinking.
Yeah, well, similar restrictions in a SAS as well, works in a similar fashion, but it's not really about the way that you're investing, the funds that you're using, whether you're using angel investor, using a SAS or a SIP, or whether you're using a straightforward mortgage. It's not really about the funding. What property should I buy with it? It's more to do with having an opportunity to buy something where you can add some value. My favourite is to add the value when you buy it, rather than adding value by being a builder. And that is finding a property where there's a motivated seller and you can buy under market value.
Yeah, sorry, Toby, he didn't mean it. Builders are good. He's just saying you add value there. So you see, no,
builders are very necessary, aren't they? But
you do both.
Finding a good one.
We all
Right,
need
I think quite often what we do is that we buy a project that requires a builder and we spend all of our money on the builder gets rich, and we end up out of budget, out of time, losing money, and the builder walks away with a nice big fat wallet.
He's been using the wrong builder, is he, David? Has Doug been using the wrong builder? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
in the wrong market.
I think everyone paints the picture that builders are absolutely minted.
Yeah,
just don't tell the government.
No, I think the point is that I was trying to make is that the cost of labour has increased and the cost of materials have increased. So therefore, if you're buying a project that requires some building work, you are going to be spending quite a lot of money.
Essentially, yeah. I think if you can try and do quite a lot of the things yourself, obviously it's not always the case with a lot of people, but I'm always one to open up to if the client, let's say, wants to save a bit of money and they want to get stuck in, by all means, I can just advise. I'll go, right, I need this doing and that doing. It needs to be done by this date. And then if it's not done by that date and then we have to do it, then there's obviously a charge for it. There's obviously so many different things to all of this. Some builders won't allow it. They'll be like, no, we do it. That's how we do it. We want it done by our guys. I'm more than happy for people to try and save money where they can, because we all want to save money.
I have to say, I've got a team of trades that are really good and sort of go, you can do that, you do that. So they go, off you go. Whereas some people go, you're a woman, you do that. I'm like, yes. So it's really nice to hear you say that, Toby, actually.
Yeah.
I like seeing people get involved in asking questions. I'd rather give some bit of advice or try and help in one way or another. as you can tell, I talk quite a lot anyway. So
I like giving
Well-
the shock factor. Everyone goes, "You've got that in your toolbox." I'm like, "Yes."
I've got everything in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I just want to thank you for that this evening and the questions. Van, you're amazing. I've left my email in there for you, Van, if you need it. And as I say, we'll put this onto YouTube so you can pick it up. Toby, thank you for your contributions. Fantastic, lots of knowledge, lots of great things. If you've got any questions, if I missed anything in the chat, I do apologise. But if you've got anything, emails there or reach out to one of us, then we can certainly look at what you're doing. Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. And I was trying to remember what I was going to say, Katie. And then I'm not an expert in SIPs, SAPs, and all the rest of it. Okay, but if you reach out to Dan, or if you reach out to me, I'll put you in contact with Dan. He works with wealth builders, and wealth builders is Kevin Whelan, and he's a fantastic guy. And all their philosophies around wealth creation are really, really aligned with or adhere to. So they are the experts in pensions, but they're educating as well as knowing how the SIPs and the SAPs work. Again, I'm not connected to them anyway, but I am on their, I joined their program in order to do exactly the same thing as you're doing. Is to move. I've got commercial properties in companies rather than the SIPs and the SAPs and everything else. So reach out to Dan or myself, and we'll put you in contact with them, and they are experts at what they do. You don't have to do anything that they, they're not just there to sell the program, so they go through, but there's lots of free trainings that they hold as well. Anything you want to add to that, Dan?
Hi, Sunil. Amit here. How are you?
Very good, you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Katie, hi. Sorry, I sort of couldn't really hear the conversation because there's a lot of noise in the background at home. Can you just go through your situation again, please, regarding the SaaS?
No, I've just been exploring the opportunities as to whether to set up a SIP or a SaaS. I've ruled out a SIP because there's quite a lot of restrictions from it, and it looks like I'm going down the SaaS route. It did all start with, ironically, Louise's property, if I can say the word, a couple of months ago, and that's where the ball started rolling because I didn't know anything about them. But I'm in a fortunate position that I've got enough funds to create one, which is quite cool.
Sure. Okay. Right. I mean, look, as Sunil was correctly alluded to, obviously you will need to get specialist pensions advice from someone. Obviously, Sunil will give you the contact details, but generally speaking, if you are, if you do have a SaaS, you can use that SaaS to obviously invest into property. What a lot of people tend to do is they tend to invest in commercial property, especially where they are sort of running a business and they are renting their property, because once you purchase that property through your SaaS, obviously the rental income that that you'll be paying, that rental income will go back into your SaaS as a contribution.
I wanted to do, yeah.
Yeah, rather than being paid directly to the landlord. So there's obviously a tax saving there as well. But best bet would be to speak to a specialist in pensions. They can obviously give you the right and correct advice tailored towards your individual needs and circumstances.
Brilliant. Thanks for coming in there, Amit. Yeah, I'm just going to close in 2 minutes. Dan, did you want to cover anything with wealth builders or anything?
Yeah, I just put a message on the chat. So yeah, I'll drop you a message, Katie, and we can I can put you in contact with Kevin and the team. But yeah, they offer some brilliant services in terms of just a community option where you can be part of the community, also training with SaaS as well. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for picking that up.
Sunil,
yes,
just as a final thought, for anybody out there, there was a lady asking about Sittingbourne, whether it's a good area. It's almost irrelevant where the area is. The most important thing is that you do your financial appraisal before you get involved in any project, and do it properly and thoroughly. When you're preparing your gross development value, realism erring on pessimism, and similarly with the costings, overinflate them slightly. Don't go in there all guns blazing or think everything's rosy. You've got to get it right, because if you're not achieving minimum gross profit on gross profit of 20%, then it's not even worth considering. Walk away.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that, John. I'm not sure if you're fully operating at the moment or if you've gone into semi-retirement, but somebody
No, still going.
And no, I know you were looking to do that, but somebody asked for your number, so I put it in the chat. And
Okay.
Thank you, Ben. If somebody's looking for architectural services, that's also in the chat. If you're looking for an accountant, please don't use Brian because he's he's so busy with my stuff that I don't want. No, Brian's fantastic. There's a big company there in Sittingbourne, 5-6 partners. They've got a big team. They're also connected to a wider network, which is great. And so if if you've got questions that they may not be able to get through, they've got advice that they can go to. He's a very personable man, and I've been working with Brian since 2016 when I was a sole trader. We now have 12 companies that they look after, and I phoned him yesterday and I said, I've got this other company, please can you help me? Nothing's a problem for that. When he's away, his team pick up on stuff, but nothing's a problem for him because they're just there to serve and help, etc. And it's sometimes not financial. I work on my own for many years, and sometimes you need somebody from the outside to have a chat to put some input into, so etc. I can't say enough about them, but as I say, don't use him because he's too busy. So anyway, lots of people putting information on there. People's numbers are in the WhatsApp group as well. There's 700 plus people in the WhatsApp group. If you're not part of it, then get the link and join. Introduce yourself. You'll get lots of information on there. We'll be back in the room at the beginning of August. Apologies for last month that we, due to the football and various other things, we've rolled it over to next month. So if you bought a ticket in July, that you can still come in August, and please buy your tickets early for August because we want to make sure that we continue. And thank you for those people, Clive, various people that continue to support the meetings, and thank you for today. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Is everyone bye?